I think the Hudson deal is the big one. Everybody thought maybe this team would make a push for Corey Linsley, the Packers center who ended up going to the Chargers. I think the Cardinals probably were in on that as best they could be. It didn't work out. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, on Tuesday, it came out the Raiders were going to cut Rodney Hudson for salary cap reasons. And that sent everybody into a tizzy because a lot of teams could use Rodney Hudson. And then it became clear that there was enough teams that wanted Hudson that the Raiders would try and get something out of it. And obviously they did. And the Cardinals made the big deal. And I do think after listening to Sean Kugler talk about Mason Cole and Lamont Gaillard earlier last month, really mentioning that they might look at center as a place where they bring somebody in, it seemed kind of obvious that would happen. And I think they've changed the complete dynamic of that offensive line right now. And Kyler Murray, a guy who's tweeted a couple times or retweeted stuff about going after offensive linemen and protecting the quarterback, has got to be happy on this first day of free agency.
Not to put you guys on the spot, but Rodney Hudson, the numbers, have they come out? Is anybody reporting what the salary is going to be, the cap hit is going to be? Kyle, what have we seen?
Yeah, when you get traded, your salary just goes with you. So we haven't heard anything about an extension or any kind of restructure. At this point, his salary cap hit for this year, I believe, is $9.5 million, which is a healthy chunk of your available cap space. But when you're talking about one of your better players, a Pro Bowl player, it's not exorbitant by any means. And if they want to get that number down, you can talk to him and maybe just turn that into a signing bonus and push some money to next year, or the Cardinals might be okay. I mean, you look at where they're at now roster wise, I think number one cornerback is still the glaring hole on the roster. Other than that, I don't know if you're going to be making any more big time signings. I mean, all the rest of the holes have pretty much been filled. So maybe you don't need a bunch of cap space. Maybe depending on how you structure whatever you're going to do at this cornerback spot, I think you might be all right. But there's certainly room to get more space, whether it's Rodney Hudson or a different player if the Cardinals need it.
And how do we know that at some point it might not come out that they restructured other deals of existing players, a Devon Kennard, a Justin Pugh, whomever? Look, to me, not only is center critical, obviously, you just look at recent history, the difference between a rookie Mason Cole going in a few years ago out of necessity when AQ Shipley went down in the red-white practice versus the next year when AQ came in and solidified that center spot. I mean, we've seen it most recently, the before and after, and to bring in a guy like Rodney Hudson, especially Darren, to me, with a Kyler Murray and the prospect of interior pressure. It's problematic for any quarterback. But if you're 6'6" Ben Roethlisberger, guess what? You're a lot more equipped to handle the interior pressure. So you get a guy that you have confidence in, a guy who can hold the point, a guy who doesn't get penalized. Hello? Analytics by Gree. That's what we're going to start calling this. Craig Grialou sent along some sort of numbers that over the last 3 years, he has only 3 penalties called on him. Rodney Hudson, that's one fewer than the Cardinals starting center had by himself all of last season. So all that being told, there's no doubt it's an upgrade.
I don't think there's any question the Cardinals were looking to upgrade there. And I agree. I think for all those reasons, you needed to kind of solidify the middle there. We still don't know exactly who the right guard is going to end up being. The left guard as of right now is Justin Pugh. I mean, there was a lot of talk about, might they cut Justin Pugh to clear some cap space? And I suppose that's still possible, but Steve Keim has been too complimentary of Justin Pugh in the past about how well he played last year. I don't see him going anywhere. They might restructure or potentially ask him to take some kind of cut. We don't know that. But I think he's going to be your left guard. And I think all of a sudden you feel a lot better with bringing back Kelvin Beachum to be your right tackle, who had a very solid year last year, and DJ Humphries, who I think played at arguably a Pro Bowl level. And then you have Pugh, who played pretty well, and then you have a better center. I mean, there's going to be, even though you got to figure out who that right guard is, there's going to be fewer questions about that line going in, and you should have a better performance, and that will take less. It means, I shouldn't say take less. It now means more that Kyler Murray's got to take these steps forward because you're going to have less reason to be concerned that it's the offensive line causing any issues on the offense.
I mean, Darren, real quick, are you comfortable with Justin Murray battling Josh Jones for the right guard spot, if that's what it comes down to?
I mean, or you could even throw Mason Cole in there or Lamont Galliard even at this point. But I mean, I think let me say it this way: with the moves they've made already, unless they make some significant other moves, they're running out of cap space. So I don't know you're going to be able to upgrade much more than what they've already got. I do think Justin Murray's been relatively solid. I mean, do you wish you could have a Pro Bowler in there? Sure, but you're not going to get that at every position. And I will say that as we go, there's still going to be some opportunities. I would think deeper into free agency as we see guys taking so many one-year deals. Well, at some point, the one-year deals are going to be super cheap or minimum deals. And maybe there's a veteran out there who's a little bit better than Justin Murray, who you feel better with. But yeah, if they had to go with this offensive line right now, I would feel fairly comfortable with it. I think Rodney Hudson helps them that much.
Well, and that's why I throw that out, because a Pro Bowler is not walking through that door at this point to play right guard. So I'm curious, Kyle, how you feel about the offensive line as currently constructed, if that is indeed the direction they go, and we end up in September with an offensive line that left to right is DJ Humphries, Justin Pugh, Rodney Hudson. Don't call him Rodney Harrison, as I've already done a couple other times on other platforms. Rodney Hudson. And then your right guard is either Josh Jones or Justin Murray, along with Kelvin Beachum, who's in for 2 years, $4 million. Very well bought by the Cardinals, if you ask me, the right tackle.
Yeah, and I think you look at that left side, and that's a really impressive left side of the line. Justin Pugh has taken some flack from fans. He had some penalty issues, and the contract is at the point where it's kind of a discussion, is he worth that money? But regardless of the money, like if you bring Justin Pugh back, he's an above average left guard, and you've got a Pro Bowl caliber left tackle, a Pro Bowl caliber center. So you love the left side. And I think what Darren said is prescient. Like, you can't have Pro Bowlers at every single position. You can't pay every single position. So yeah, I'd be comfortable with Justin Murray or Josh Jones or Mason Cole or Lamont Gilliard. Like, somebody's going to win that job, and they're going to do a decent enough job, especially if you've got two veterans next to you. The big part is figuring out when stunts are coming and who you need to double and where the blitz is coming from. A lot of it's communication. When you're playing guard, oftentimes you'll get to double team one of those interior guys, and if it's with your Pro Bowl center, he's going to do the heavy lifting. So I feel like what they have at guard right now is sufficient. And I was just thinking back to the Rams game at home for the Cardinals, when interior pressure just killed them, and they looked worse in that game offensively than maybe any other all season long. And I think maybe that was part of the impetus to getting the interior stronger. And Aaron Donald is in your division twice a year, every single year, and you got to stop somebody like that. Interior pressure, I think, will wreck an offense quicker than anything else. So if they can stop that, and obviously Rodney Hudson goes a long way toward doing so.
Yeah, Aaron Donald is reason enough. Heck, you had me at false start penalties. That would be reason enough. Before you even snap the stinking ball, Rodney Hudson hasn't had a false start penalty, according to the analytics, since 2016, and that center position had 4 called on it a year ago. So right there, not to mention some of the other pass blocking grades, was over 93, which is the best among centers since 2015, if you're following Pro Football Focus, and I know you do, Kyle. And he's only had 3 sacks attributed to him since 2015. That's almost 3,500 snaps. So right there, I mean, Kyle, you are much more stout at the point of attack. And there were reasons Lamont Gilliard got snaps last year, because they were searching for that guy to solidify that spot.
Yeah, I think early in the season, Mason Cole did a decent job. And then toward later on, like you said, they started rotating, and there was some leaky protection and leaky run blocking. And like you said, I mean, Rodney Hudson is just a stud. Any way you look at the numbers, you look at the tape, and you hear from front office people, everybody was so surprised when they heard that the Raiders were going to release him. And obviously Oakland didn't realize the type of attention or offers they could get for him. And to get a 3rd round pick compared to releasing him is obviously really good for Oakland, but it also shows that maybe they misread the market for him. And even though it would have been perfect to have him get released and then the Cardinals sign him in free agency and not give up a pick, there's no guarantee that you get him, because he's got prior relationships with other teams. maybe some team can just come in and offer this huge money because they have a lot of salary cap space. So yeah, the Cardinals did have to give up a pretty valuable draft pick, but they got a guy at a really affordable contract for what he can do. So I think overall it was a nice trade for the Cardinals.